friends, Jerry Rosa here in the Rosa Stringworks workshop. Finally, a real milestone in the auctioning off of this mandolin that we've been talking about. It is here. I have it in my hands. It is as good as I thought it was. I have not strung it up to play it yet. Yes, it has strings on it. They're loosened and one string is missing, and these strings, I'm sure, are from 2005. So I'm not even going to bother tightening them up. I also had included a deer antler saddle. Well, let me back up. You notice it doesn't have a deer antler saddle on this. The customer wanted one when he bought it. I didn't have any deer antler in stock at that time. It was just so happened I happened to be out of it, and that happens every once in a while. Anyway, I made him a deer antler saddle, shipped it to him, and he had it in the case. So I will be putting on the deer antler saddle that was intended to be on this mandolin from the beginning. I'll put that on. I'm going to clean it up a little bit, although it really doesn't need any cleanup, to be honest with you. It is in almost new condition. I will tell you that you can see the slightest amount of, I don't know, not really wear. It'll buff right out. There's no scratches at all, but you can see that, you can tell that he played it a little bit because he did touch it a place or two, but it's so minor that it's not even, I'm serious, it's not even necessary to even buff it out. You can't even really see it. Most people would never see it. I notice these things because I do this all the time. I will tell you that there is some very, very, very faint finish cracking in there, and you might be able to see it. I think you can see that one a little bit. It's just finish cracking, and that is pretty common on this type of nitrocellulose lacquer I use. You know, you can justify anything, so you know, you could take this as a justification if you want to, but in a way it's almost a good thing because it shows that the lacquer is very hard. That's what I want. I want a very hard, dry lacquer. That's what gives them the good sound. You might not be able to hear this, but as I'm talking, it keeps ringing right now, and the strings aren't even tight on it. So I'm sure it's going to have a lot of resonance, but it's literally like I'm talking in an echo chamber because I can hear it echoing. Hey, hey, can you hear that echo? It's amazing. Anyway, it just is really nice. I will tell you just a little bit of trivia. This is a hand-drawn, hand-carved rose. All the roses I do now are traced. I'm just telling you the truth, but because I wanted to standardize them. This one is just slightly oversized. It's not much oversized, but slightly oversized from the way I do them now. But this one was individually hand-drawn, if that makes a difference to anybody. In other words, I just looked at a picture, drew it, and, you know, did it that way. Versus tracing them, which is what I do now. It does have the abalone dots in the fingerboard. It does have the side position dots. The neck is not finished, which is my preference. It's slick as, well, you've heard me say it already, slick as snot on a doorknob. It just slides so easy to play this type. And the neck is small. It's a nice, small neck. You know, a lot of people get hung up on these measurements and stuff. I don't. I go by feel. But because people care and they ask, let's just measure it. Now keep in mind, this includes the binding here, but the neck at the nut is 1 inch, 120 thousandths, so about 1 inch and 1/8. That includes the binding. So inside of that, that binding is probably close to 120 thousandths. So the neck itself, the fretboard, is probably about 1 inch. So let's see if I can get a better measurement on that. The width of just the fretboard is, it might even be a hair under 100 thousandths. I mean, a 1 inch, I'm sorry. Get my tongue wrapped around my eye teeth. I can't see what I'm saying. Anyway, you know, you can see the rose there. It does have the, don't hold me on this. I can't remember which tuning keys these are, but you can see them right there. They're either the Grover or the Goto, and I don't remember, and I just, sorry, I don't know. And I haven't used them in so long, I just don't remember. And you can see it does, these are the plastic buttons. They're not the, you know, Waverly solid pearl buttons. Just being honest with everybody so you know what you're getting. It does have the Allen gold tail piece that doesn't appear to have any wear on it at all. So that also shows it hasn't been played much. I just now did see, I never saw this before, but there is kind of a little tiny little, like a, not a nick exactly, but like a little pressed place there. I'll buff that out and clean that up too. But there is a little place right there. It's the only thing I've seen on it so far. I didn't even see that the first 4 or 5 times I looked at it here, so I missed that. But you can see the back is, you know, I guess you'd colorblind, but I'm going to say it's black, brown, some little bit of a lighter brown and red to a golden color here in the middle. You can tell it better than I can, so I'm happy with it in the way it is and the way it looks, the way it feels. I think it's going to be wonderful. We'll string it up here in just a few minutes after I clean her all up. We'll string it up and show you what it sounds like. In an honest effort to provide full disclosure, when I took the strings off and the bridge off, a little bit of finish did flake off right there under the saddle, under the bridge I mean. It had this back in these days, I wasn't letting the finish dry long enough. And, you know, yeah, I'm just being honest, it did flake off just a tiny little bit of finish there. I touched it up with some color so it doesn't really show up much. And I'm putting the... you know, the bridge will go right back in that place and cover it right back up, I'm sure. I will set up the intonation and make it perfect, though, to make sure. And if there's a problem, I'll show it to you, but I don't think there is. In addition, after taking the strings off of it, I have discovered that he did actually play this. You know, quite a bit more than she let on. She either didn't realize it or didn't know it or had forgotten it. Because he had played it enough to where there were some grooves in the frets. And I cleaned all that up. I dressed it. I re-leveled them. I re-leveled the whole thing. I re-crowned them. I buffed them out. And then I re-oiled the fretboard. So it's had like a brand new... you know, fret job done on it. It looks like brand new again. So that shouldn't affect anything. But I did want to let you know that he did play it more than she let on to me. I did take and lightly buff the whole thing out and hand buff it out and polish it and everything, so it looks real good. We're about ready to put the strings right back on it to see how it's going to sound. I'm kind of anxious to hear that. For those of you who've been keeping track of the progress on selling this mandolin and all the issues I've run up against, I thought you'd get a kick out of knowing how the mandolin finally got here. The lady called me on Monday or Tuesday of last week and said they were getting it to UPS that day and that it should be on its way. Well, about Friday, I was really getting concerned, beginning to look, looking for it, hoping that it would get here. And about that time, when I was just about ready to call her, the phone rang and she called me instead. And she was so upset. She says, "Jerry, I just don't know what to do. I've tried everything I can and UPS just won't take the instrument." And I'm going, why won't they take it? You know, she goes, "Well, I can't go there myself, and I've had different people take it up to UPS, and they don't know how to answer the questions, and blah, 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 blah." Long story short, they didn't get it shipped. So here it is, Friday the 14th now, and I'm going, oh my gosh. I was expecting to receive it about that day. So I told her, well, I'll think of some options and I'll call you back. I said, I got to figure something out. Well, I remember I have a lot of relatives over in that area on my mom's side of the family. And so I started calling I called one of them, I should say, and asked if anybody lived up near Hillsboro, Illinois, and nobody really did. The closest person was probably at least an hour from there. And I thought, well, I don't want to make them drive, an hour each way to get the thing. And then, getting it to me after that would be another issue. So then, about that time, she asked me, she says, well, you're coming to the Christmas party tomorrow, I hope. And I said, Christmas party tomorrow? Yeah, I get so busy in the shop, I just forget everything. And my wife didn't remind me like she usually does. We don't go to that particular Christmas party every year. We try to hit it about every other year or so. And last year we were there. So that may have been another reason why I wasn't really paying much attention. Well, just so happened that Christmas party was in Pontoon Beach, Illinois. So then I get to looking on the map, and it looked like it was about another hour's drive on up to Hillsboro, and vice versa, an hour back. So really it was about an additional 2-hour drive for me, and I just decided to go pick it up myself. And when I called her back and told her I would do that, she was pretty tickled. She was pretty darn happy that that's what we were doing. So that's what happened. So Saturday, I guess that was the 15th, I drove up to Hillsboro. Had to leave a couple hours early, obviously, so that I could get to the party on time. And that's how it finally arrived here. I got the mandolin all set up for you here. It's just real fine. I'm proud of it. I think it's a very, very good mandolin. I like the look of it. I think it's got a real pretty look. I put a different strap on here than what was on there when out of the case. This is just a paracord that I use. It's adjustable in a sense that you can open it up like this and make it smaller for somebody or whatever. I know a lot of people say, you know, on a expensive mandolin, put a paracord like that, but I like it because it fits in the case. It's easy to put on and off. You don't have to worry about futzing with it in the case, especially. So maybe I'm just lazy, but that's a big issue for me, and I just like this. I really do. I think these are the best way to go, in my opinion. But not everybody would agree with that. But it doesn't cost much, so all you got to do is change it out if you don't like it. I looked it over really close, and I'm just, you know, I'm going over with a fine-tooth comb so that anybody buying it will, you know exactly what they're getting. These little, the couple little dings that were right there, they're not deep or anything. They're just they just kind of pop the finish a little bit. And I tried to buff them out. And if anything, to be perfectly honest with you, they probably got a hair worse looking because the buffing compound gets down in a little crack and it even shows up a little bit more. But they're not terrible, and they're, you know, they're right there, but you can see them, but they're not terrible. A little bit of a dingy thing right up in here, looks like also. So the bottom line is he did play it more than she thought, and you know, messed with it more than she thought, because like I said, it had some grooves in the fingerboard or in the frets, and I took all those out. The back, if there's a ding here, this is just the littlest, tiniest thing right here. Again, it's a finish thing. It's really not deep at all. Trying to think of anything else. The only other thing is those little tiny finish cracks probably show up a little bit more than they did, to be perfectly honest with you, mainly because I buffed them out and the buffing compound got in there, and you can see them a little bit more than you could before. I mean, they're not bad, and it's to be expected, to be honest with you. On that kind of finish, it's going to crack over time. People will say, well, that's humidity and all that. Well, I'm going to do a video on my opinion on humidity, and it's going to probably make everybody mad and shock the whole world. But I have a totally different take on the humidity issue. But anyway, this does not have a truss rod, by the way. This was made before, and the neck is just as straight as a string. It's just perfect. There's nothing wrong with the neck. It's really good. I'll tell you, I really like it. It's a good mandolin. Well, let's just play it and see what you think. Try a little bit of Washington County. Don't play that often enough. Too rusty on everything anymore. Here's one in F. Bill Monroe's Right On. Again, it's got very good sustain. Very good sustain. Just needs playing in. It really needs playing in. It's been sitting for a long time. I can't use the argument that the finish isn't dry, but I certainly can use the argument it needs playing in. It's just been sitting forever. Even since I've had it in the shop, I feel like it's starting to open up a little bit. Again, you can just hear it. It's really nice. Got a lot of punch. That was Kentucky Waltz in the key of E, which is unusual. Most people play it in D. I played it in E because that's where I heard Kenny Baker do it on his fiddle. Let's see. What about something simple like this? Okay, I just want to tell you I'm going to sweeten the deal just a little bit on this mandolin. And one of the items that we're going to sweeten the deal with is giving the buyer a choice. And let me show you what I mean by that. Okay, so here is the original case that came with the mandolin. You can see it's in very good shape. Little bit of wear there just because it's been laying in there for so long. I will tell you that this lining right here is just a tiny little bit loose, which I don't think would be any problem to glue right back. Other than that, I've seen nothing wrong with the case whatsoever. And, you know, the mandolin fits it really well. It goes down in there easily. The little strap will fit in here very easily and closes, no problem. Latches up, 3 latches, and there is a key for it if you so desire, and the key is in there. So you can have this case with it. This is the original case with the mandolin as sold back in 2005. You can have this case, or I would imagine that almost everybody would pick this case over the other one, and I wouldn't blame you. And you can have your choice. If you would prefer to have this case, you may have this case. There are two slight minor disadvantages with this case. The main one being this is very difficult to get the mandolin in and out, although it will get easier over time. This case is really snug, but it does fit and you can get it in there no problem, but you kind of have to be specific about how you get it in there. You can't just throw it in the case and expect it to land where you wanted it. You have to wiggle it down in there. Now again, it's so tight that you could turn this upside down and it won't fall out. But yeah, it goes in here pretty good. Not too bad, really. Actually, it's getting better each time. So you can certainly have this case if you like. Now this case, you should know, does have a very minor flaw in it up here. It's got this little line, and as you saw in my last video, this is the case that, you know, I bought thinking it was new and it wasn't. It was a return case. But I figure, why not take advantage of the fact that I have it and let the buyer have this case with it if they choose that. However, if you choose to have the original case, you may have it. So that's totally up to you. I will leave that totally up to the buyer on which case they choose. And lastly, my friends, on this mandolin, I am going to extend the warranty, which just simply means that as long as I'm alive, I'll take care of it for you. If you have a problem, the only thing that if you decide you wanted to, change something, well, you would pay for parts, but I will furnish the labor. If something would break or anything, and I don't expect that, but if something should break, I will fix it, as long as I'm able to do that. So you've got my assurance there on that. And the last thing to say is that we will now set the auction date to close on this coming Wednesday the 19th. Today is Sunday the 16th, and I should hopefully get this video out yet this evening. And that'll give us through Wednesday then at midnight. Wednesday, the auction will close. So there is still time to bid. The current bid at the moment is, and I haven't checked today, but I'm assuming it is still $5,500. So if you would like to own this mandolin, there's still time to get in on the bidding. You would need to register on my website, so just go to www.rosastringworks.com, click on the register tab at the top. Then you'll get an email to confirm your registration, and then you should be able to bid on the mandolin. And for the rest of you, God bless. Thanks for watching.